The question is my honest thoughts on America's welfare and food stamp programs. Is that right, Katie, my lovely producer?
That's right.
I don't have a problem with some kind of assistance from the government for people that are down on their luck, or that may have lost their jobs or can't find a job, can't work because of injury or some other thing. The worst part about these kinds of discussions is that people, or perhaps yourself, you try to force yourself to draw a line in the sand and say, well, money for people that lost their job is okay, but money for people that can't find a job isn't okay. And what you never really stop to do is stop to unpack those ideas. Well, okay, a guy can't find a job, but why can't he find a job? Why can't he do it? Why can't, let's say, a 45, 50-year-old professional, or why can't a guy straight out of college find a job in an entry-level position, because all of the guys that have been getting laid off because of efficiency cuts or downsizing, all those 45, 50-year-old middle-aged professionals are now willing to accept entry-level positions because there has been such a almost insane level of focus on efficiency. Got to be efficient. Got to bang for your buck. Bang for your buck. Bang for your buck. Everything's got to be efficient all the time. All the time. All the time. We got to ride on that razor's edge of profitability so that we can offer the lowest product, or the product at the lowest price to the consumers, lowest production costs, whatever, highest profit margins, all this stuff, right? And efficiency, as you trend towards efficiency, you disincentivize hiring workers. You do trim the fat, but you don't seem to realize that that fat has to go somewhere. Those people are still people that are going to need jobs, or going to want jobs. And so you may lose your job to downsizing, but what about the guy that can't get a job because of people that were downsized now going to get jobs? This isn't to say that those people need to be taken care of, but it's an interesting discussion that I don't think, an interesting thought that not a lot of people have. You try to draw these definitive lines, but you always, once you draw a line, once you zoom in, you realize that there's people on either side of the line that you don't want on that side of the line. And so making definitive answers and just strict rules and sets about what is and is not acceptable is difficult. And it gets into, the idea of shut the fuck up, duck. Look at you. Stop it. Duck's a dick. It's one of the ideas, one of the ways they teach calculus is that you talk about when you're learning integration in calculus. Integration, essentially what it gives you is the area under the curve of a function f, whatever it may be. And integration is very simple when the function is very simple. When it's a simple, when it's, let's see, what is it? Y equals, or is it x equals 5? What would it be?
What?
Algebra, kids. Y equals 5 would be a horizontal line.
Right.
Right? And x equals 5 would be a vertical line.
No. Y is vertical.
Y is vertical?
I'm pretty sure.
No, because that's the y-intercept, isn't it?
I could be wrong.
I really should have thought about this. Now I look like an idiot. People are going to be mad at me. But anyway, when the function is very simple, when it's just a straight line intercepting the y-axis, figuring out, given the bounds from 0 to 10, figuring out the area under that curve is very simple.
See, y is vertical.
Y is vertical? Mm-hmm. Oh, there you go. So it's x when x equals 5. It doesn't make any sense.
Yep.
I seem to be questioning all the principles of mathematics now. But anyway, and as you start to get into more and more complex functions, you can, if you have a linear line y equals mx plus b, you get a line with some slope m. And assuming m is non-zero, you have essentially a triangle, and you bound the triangle and you say, what's the area under that curve? Well, you can still do it with, it would be trigonometry, I believe. And you could still figure out that area under the curve without calculus, without this extensive mathematical idea, this I guess theory or whatever. But when you start getting into more and more complex functions, when you start adding curves to things and multiple curves up and down, a sinusoidal wave, let's say, or whatever, and you have to find the area under that curve in order to do it without calculus. You start taking, let's say, rectangles under the curve, right? A rectangle here, and then a rectangle here, and then a rectangle there. And then it works, kind of. You get close, but you're not exactly there. And as the rectangles get smaller and smaller, your answer gets closer and closer to being correct. And depending on how you draw the triangles, and then you graduate to the trapezoidal rule or trapezoidal method, you get closer and closer, and depending on how you draw them, you can be a little bit over what the actual answer is or a little bit under. And each time you zoom in to draw one of the, let's think about it in the metaphorical sense, each time you draw one of those rectangles or triangles, imagine you're making a distinctive proclamation about what is and is not acceptable for whatever you're talking about. Well, assume that the true answer, whatever it is a very complex function. It's got curves and stuff in it. So when you make a definitive answer and say, these people yes, those people no, you're essentially drawing a rectangle or a trapezoid to try to interpret the area under a curved function. And it kind of works on the margins, but each time you do it, when you zoom in, there's going to be people over the line, under the line, that shouldn't be there. And so talking about welfare and saying what is and is not acceptable is a difficult task. But just in the philosophical sense, I don't have a problem with the government, be it federal or state, helping out individual citizens. Because that same government, federal or state, helps out so many businesses, so many big corporations, that a lot of the people that own those corporations say, why are you helping out welfare? Shouldn't it be welfare? But then they forget the tax breaks they got to move their business into the state, or move their business back to U.S. soil, or the subsidies they get from the government to overproduce so that they can produce all this stuff and still have a portion of that production covered by the subsidy from the government. And it's hypocritical to me. Now, the question is then, well, should the government help out corporations at all? Should there be kind of crony capitalist welfare system kind of thing? Well, again, we're trying to draw lines, and that's, I don't see a problem with individual citizens being helped. And I also don't see a problem in certain circumstances of corporations being given help in some manner. Like I said, tax breaks to move a factory into my state versus another one. That's an astute political move. But it still is a form of government welfare. And I think if that's going to be accepted, then a certain level of welfare for individual private citizens should be acceptable as well. Where is that line drawn? Now that's the question. I am not equipped to answer that question. I'm just not. I can give you ideas, I can give you what I think, but they're going to be wrong. They're probably going to be very wrong. But just again, in the overreaching sense, when you zoom out, when you widen your gaze, Holmes, to view everything, if some sort of welfare is going to be acceptable for large corporations and big business, then some form of welfare for private citizens should also be acceptable, and I don't have a problem with it.